Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Real News Extra. My name is Fred. I'm the operations manager here at RELAW APC. And joining me today is Jennifer Felten, the principal and founder of RELAW APC. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, Fred.
So how's the recovery going for the fire victims?
Slow.
Yes.
I think would be a good word for it. So the reality is when there is just this catastrophic loss, it is not a quick rebuild. It's not a quick resolve.
Right.
So in particular, we're having to remediate dirt and rebuild infrastructure, things that are beyond just one house burning down or a couple of houses burning down. So it's a very long process. Realistically, it'll be, December, about a year before we even have clean dirt for these people to start rebuilding and going through the city process, going through permitting, going through, all the regulatory red tape is going to be a challenge, which means for most of these people, 3 to 4 years to rebuild if that's their plan, which is very challenging. Now, I think the government's doing very well in the grand scheme of things. We live right here by the Palisades fire, and we see the dump trucks, we see the remediation effort that's going on. There is a clear and definitive effort to take action, but it just takes time.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is a very particular risk that the government is trying to address with an executive order. What is that?
Yeah, so there's a fear that, so think about if you're a homeowner, you lost your home, and you're being told it's going to take 3 to 4 years to rebuild, and you're also being told that your insurance is only going to cover your relocation costs for 2 years. Well, how are you going to manage those extra 2 years?
That math doesn't add up very well.
No, and one of the things we're hearing is the actual rebuild costs are going to be significantly higher than what would happen again in a one-up fire.
Right.
So because lack of people and lack of resources, right, we expect the cost to be significantly higher to rebuild than what would be for a one-up home being lost. So if you're that homeowner facing those numbers, do I have the money to rebuild? Do I have the time to rebuild? Do I have the emotional capacity to go through this?
It's a lot.
Right? And so the fear is that while these victims are trying to process this, some, bad guy, scammer, comes in and it's like, oh, here, I'll give you $1 million for your lot and you can walk away.
Right.
There's a fear that people will lowball these owners. They will take it because they're just emotionally and financially distraught and lose value, lose equity, lose what they would have if they had waited and had more time to process and plan to do this in a more organized way. So the law specifically prohibits people from soliciting an owner whose home has been burnt in a fire to sell below market. So it makes it a crime to do that, trying to keep those bad guys out and away from the homeowners who've been victimized by the fire already.
What are some things that real estate professionals can look for or try to help consumers to make sure they're not being pressured into just unfair deals?
Right. So real estate agents can and should be involved in any transaction where someone is selling their lot. You can choose to sell your lot, right? If you're a homeowner and that's the decision you've made, it's totally fine. But get guidance, get an attorney, get a real estate agent, get someone who can tell you what your lot's really worth, and make sure that you're giving the right disclosures and mitigating the risk to the future owner, right? There's a lot of things that need to happen in order to do it properly. So real estate agents can help fire victims who are at this point, and having the discussion of, should I sell now or should I get permits and sell after I get permits, because the value could be significantly higher.
Right.
There's a trade-off. And oh, by the way, most of these people have loans on their home, so they have a lender to deal with, and they might be upside down as to what they owe the lender versus the land value. So a realtor can give you guidance, potentially discuss a short sale, right? All the things that are necessary to consider in a tragedy situation like this.
Right. Well, thank you. And thank you for watching this episode of the Real News Extra. If you're enjoying this content, I invite you to click on like or subscribe And of course, click that little bell for future notifications. My name is Fred. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.